And welcome to Schmitt Tonight. Yesterday, the FBI raided the home of a former president for the first time in American history. The excessively bold move was in response to an alleged offense that is apparently committed all the time in American politics: improper handling of classified documents. The fact the FBI still raided Trump's home shows how emboldened our politicized DOJ has become. When Trump left the White House, the National Archives alleged his staffers took items that belonged to the United States government. After they complained, it appears they got the vast majority of it back, and everybody was working together, and it was all fine. The FBI went to Mar-a-Lago. They picked up 15 boxes worth of presidential records in January. A lot of it was presidential memorabilia, like a letter from Kim Jong-un, a letter from Obama when Trump entered the White House, a hurricane map Trump altered with a Sharpie. Evidently, the National Archives thinks there is more to be found at Mar-a-Lago, and the FBI is using that little nugget to gaslight the American public to somehow justify raiding the beach club residence of a former president. And to be honest, when it happened last night, it wasn't even that much of a surprise. Were you shocked by this? Really? I wasn't. It seemed par for the course with the DOJ of late. I thought, I can't believe it hadn't happened yet. You know the D.C. apparatus needs to destroy this man before he runs for president again. We all know that. In fact, the only thing surprising has been the array of responses to what happened. For instance, how is former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo really worried about this raid, while Mitch McConnell is ostensibly apathetic? Cuomo tweeting out, DOJ must immediately explain the reason for its raid, and it must be more than a search for inconsequential archives, or it will be viewed as a political tactic and undermine any future credible investigation and legitimacy of January 6th investigations. Did the DOJ do that? Did they explain anything today? Did you see Merrick Garland on TV today? Absolutely not. They didn't do it. Staunch, lifelong establishment Democrat Andrew Cuomo put that tweet out. The guy was almost Trump's opponent in 2020. A lot of people thought that's what it was going to be before his life was upended by sexual assault allegations. He was going to be the guy. They didn't want Biden. Cuomo tweeted that first thing this morning. Mitch McConnell tweeted nothing. And then Mitch, talking about all the flooding in Kentucky, which is another terrible story, was asked about it today, and we got more nothing.
What is your reaction to the FBI raid yesterday at Mar-a-Lago?
I'm here today to talk about the flood and the recovery from the flood.
So Cuomo's talking about it. Mitch McConnell's not. What does that tell you? Well, Andrew Cuomo is on an island right now. His party cast aside one of its biggest names, himself, in the name of cancel culture. But we certainly know this man's not a Republican. Look at his politics for the last 30 years. You could say Cuomo is one of the most nonpartisan opinions around on an issue like this, right? And he clearly thinks that this smells like a scandal. On the other hand, Mitch McConnell is a Republican who, based on his response, has no interest in defending Trump and is happy to see him damaged by whatever means possible. Determining the truth in this moment is the hardest part, especially when the standard issue noisemakers are all working overtime to lend this action from the FBI tremendous credibility, forcing Americans to believe Trump deserves this because he's such a big threat to democracy.
A judge apparently made a decision that there might be evidence of a crime in the residence of a former president. It's just astounding. But on the other hand, as with so many things with the former administration, it's also not that surprising.
They're making fascist threats, and we need to do what the United States has always done. We need to confront fascism and defeat it.
The Justice Department is returning to its historical position as a law enforcement agency above politics, trying to do the right thing.
I don't know who that last guy is, but what kind of drug is he on? Because I want some. I mean, that's impressive. So what's the reality here? We did some digging on this issue. What we found indicates that the FBI just made a really big mistake. In a PBS interview, Chuck Rosenberg, a former U.S. attorney and senior FBI official, said earlier this year that this alleged crime that everybody's talking about Trump doing right now that justified this raid of his house, well, this has never been taken seriously. Take a listen.
With respect to the Presidential Records Act, That law doesn't have a criminal provision. It doesn't even have an enforcement mechanism.
It doesn't have an enforcement mechanism or a criminal provision. Well, it sure as hell seemed to have one last night. One created out of political necessity by a politicized DOJ. Going further from the same man, on PBS, by the way, talking about classified information. Take a look.
The President of the United States, any president, is the primary consumer of intelligence information. He is the ultimate customer. He also has the authority to classify and declassify documents. So even if documents were found that are classified, it would be very difficult, exceedingly difficult, for a federal prosecutor to prove that Mr. Trump or any other president didn't just wave their hand over the documents and say, I now declassify you.
You're starting to see the big pile of crap the FBI just stepped into. They jumped the shark. It sort of explains Chuck Schumer's reaction to all of this last night on Rachel Maddow's show. Schumer normally will exploit literally anything for political gain. I mean, he's just your standard issue DC creep. So this story should have been a slam dunk, right? I mean, Schumer should have been screaming about how this obviously corrupt president is too dangerous for this country and the FBI is doing what's necessary to put this man in prison where he belongs. And yeah. You remember what he said outside of the Supreme Court? This guy's a lunatic. Check him out last night on Rachel Maddow.
The FBI has searched the home of the former president.
Yeah, well, I know nothing about it other than what I've read, like everybody else. So I think it's wise for me to withhold comment until we learn more.
I do want to ask your reaction to what Mr. McCarthy has said.
Look, I think none of us know the facts, and any comments are premature.
First off, could he make it any more obvious that he totally knew that this happened? I mean, politicians are such terrible liars because they're all usually really bad actors. They failed at that job before they got into politics. I mean, that was almost as bad as Pelosi on whether or not she ever fed information to her husband for the stock trades. I mean, it was that level bad of an answer. It was impressively bad. Schumer knew about it the whole time. And he also knows that the FBI went way too far with this, and that's why he's not saying a word. They know this is outrageous, and they know everybody at the tippity top knew about this. Let's take a listen to what one more Trump hater thinks on whether or not this move will backfire dramatically.
This, I'm hoping, goes beyond simply not complying with some archiving laws or DOJ just handed Donald Trump the Republican nominee and potentially the presidency. If it's seen as some sort of massive overreach and not something incredibly serious, this is a very good day for Donald Trump.
That woman hates Donald Trump. So these are the moments when you actually listen to what those people say, because when they say something interesting, it actually means something. When she's trash-talking Trump, you know there's an agenda there. She has no reason to protect him right now. It tells you everything you need to know in this moment. This is when you actually want to listen to how Democrats respond to things. What Schumer, how he responded, speaks volumes. It's interesting to watch. Our government has become so corrupted and drunk on power, especially under this regime, that they finally have jumped the shark. Earlier today, some news outlets began reporting the idea that Trump could be charged under what's called U.S. Code Title 18, Section 2071, for mishandling classified documents. And you just heard what the guy on PBS said. If convicted, though, which never happens, Trump would technically be banned from ever holding public office again. Oh, so that's what this is about. They're going to try and enforce something they never cared about before, something that Hillary broke, Obama broke, Clinton's broke. They're going to enforce it this time. Why? Oh, because they hate Trump. Because Trump can't get back in the White House, he's too dangerous. You talk to Democrats, they don't even really care if there was a law broken. They don't care if anybody else ever did it. They just know they really hate Trump, and he's just dangerous. We don't know why, but he's dangerous. We can't have him. We just have to get rid of him. It doesn't matter how. Just got to get him out. He can't run. He can't be president. It's funny that prospect, by the way, was never raised in 2016 about how you can't run if you've mishandled classified documents, after it was proven that Hillary had destroyed 30-some-odd thousand emails, including classified emails, and smashed laptops and phones with a hammer, classified information all throughout, all of that sent through an illegal server in her home, all of this discovered before and while she was running for president. Where was all the talk about preventing her from running because of that? Where was all the intrigue? I don't recall that. It's funny how justice is not so blind in the United States.
J.P. Morgan's CEO is warning that an economic hurricane is coming. Are you preparing? If you don't do anything, your 401k could be a 201k, and that is not good. So call our trusted friends at Lear Capital. For 25 years, Lear has helped investors own gold to protect against market chaos. It's a good thing. They can help you too. Get your information and up to $15,000 in bonus IRA gold. Just call this number, 800-880-4300. That's 800-880-4300.